So I gave Gallagher my phone number, and we ended up talking for about a half an hour. Welcome to my studio. You know, whenever I'm in here alone, I tend to think about the people that I've known throughout my life, whether they were long-term relationships or even just a brief encounter. And what did these people teach me? Oh, and while I think about these things, I draw Goths. All right, if you've never seen the show before, welcome. I'm going to draw this Goth, and while I do, I'm going to tell you a story about somebody who I came in contact with and learned something from. When I was turning 9, my mom asked me, who do you want to have come to your birthday party? And I said, Tim Conway and Harvey Korman. If you're younger and you don't know, look them up. Or don't. But I just thought these were people and I'm a person, and why can't I just be friends with Tim Conway and Harvey Korman? I guess that got some laughs, but I was serious, and in retrospect, I probably should have put an address on the envelopes. Just putting their names on the envelopes and dropping them in the box didn't do it. So that brings up the question, is it good to meet your heroes? Because, there's sort of a cliche of don't meet your heroes, right? I realized I've met a lot of my heroes, So was it a good experience? Was it a bad experience? Well, let's get into it. I've never met Harvey Korman or Tim Conway. That never happened. But there was the time that I got a phone call from Gallagher. And now you may have your opinions on Gallagher, on his comedy, on his personality. And but let's just say I probably share those opinions with you. But, for me, I didn't know what stand-up comedy even was before I knew about Gallagher. And if you know me, I'm a huge stand-up comedy nerd. I've gone to a lot of shows. I've ended up meeting a lot of comedians, but none of that maybe would have gone down that path if it hadn't started with Gallagher. He was one of the first little handfuls of people that had Showtime and HBO kind of specials, like the hour special. And one morning I got an email, and it was one of those short little emails where it's really a famous person because, if somebody was trying to dupe you, they would write a way longer email. But it just said hey, it's Gallagher. Can I give you a call? So I gave Gallagher my phone number, and I got a call, and we ended up talking for about a half an hour about all kinds of stuff. A lot of, him complaining about various people that he had a problem with. But he had some projects that he was working on, and he wanted some help, specifically with this children's book that he had written. He was like, when we get off the phone, check it out. It's on my website. Just give it a read and tell me what you think. And if it's something you want to work on, I can't really pay anybody, but maybe we could partner up on it, And if it's something that you'd want to, I don't know, is that something that you'd want to work on? Is that something that maybe you think would be published? Do you know any publishers? He was kind of fishing, I think, for help, which is fine. But I said, you know what? Actually, tonight I'm going to an event that I go to every couple months where children's book publishers, authors, and illustrators, librarians, they all get together and they just drink and chat. But I was like, I'm going to this thing tonight. I could ask them what they think of your book. And he's like, oh, that would be great. Hung up with Gallagher, and I went on his website. And it was a children's book about a duck who was also a boat. Now, that sounds pretty weird. Unless you have kids, I have a 3-year-old now. And it turns out that's not all that weird. Every show he watches is about a vehicle with eyes. He was just watching some cartoon about motorcycles, and the school teacher was a motorcycle too, and she had gray granny hair and those little half spectacles, with the chain. Turns out a duck that's a boat is not as out there as you'd think. But this thing was so long and convoluted, and I think mixed messages as far as what the moral of the story even was. It seemed like he kind of wasn't sure. So I go to this drinky event, And I'm talking with one of the, book publishers. I said, I got a call from Gallagher, and he has a children's book. And she's like, okay, books that, children's books that are written by celebrities in general just don't necessarily do all that well. Madonna had just put out a book, so they just weren't doing as good in general, even if you're not Gallagher. She says, this is really long. It really should be like one line per page. So she said, it's probably going to be a no from publishers. So yeah, I had to be the guy to tell Gallagher to tone it down. Well, I never heard back, and that's fine because, he wanted me to work for free. And I think that's the thing. That's my learning moment here that we can pass on is you got to be really careful about working for free for people. There are times when it's totally going to be a good idea and you shouldn't automatically say no. If it's something that you really want to do that'll make you the connections that you want to have in your life, go ahead and work for free, especially if it's just like your project and you own it from beginning to end. Then sure, you're probably going to have to work for free and then get it done and then put it out. But if somebody, even Gallagher, comes to you and like wants you to do illustrations and work for 5-6 months of your life in the hopes that maybe you'll get money later, it's probably not going to work out, and you should just kindly say, no, thank you, Gallagher. Well, that's it for this story and this goth. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Until then, keep drawing goths.